right, welcome to yet another watch along. Oops, correction. Welcome to yet another episode of the Women's Cricket Podcast. This is, of course, episode 11 of it. Hopefully, episode 11 of a lot more to come. We've got a special guest joining us, something that our promotion team has done a very good job of telling everyone. We've got Prajakta joining us today, and Neha, like always. टॉस अपडेट ऑफ कोर्स दिल्ली कैपिटल्स हैव ऑलरेडी वन द टॉस एंड ऑप्टेड टू बोल फर्स्ट उससे ज्यादा मैं बोल नहीं सकता क्योंकि म्यूट पे दिख रहा हूं बट वी विल डेफिनेटली बी टॉकिंग अबाउट द गेम एज वेल अपार्ट फ्रॉम एवरीथिंग दैट्स बीन हैपनिंग ओवर द लास्ट वीक इन WPL. First of all, Prajakta, how have you been? And excited to have you here today.
I've been great and thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm just looking forward to the chat and wrapping up the entire WPL that's been so far.
All right, and Neha, what about you? Thoughts on RCB's second win in succession?
Yeah, in all fairness, I was very tempted to wear the RCB jersey and, flaunt it and be like, 2 wins out of 2. But yeah, I don't want to be that, arrogant about it. A great start, a dream start, so to say. One, you would really want to, kind of get all over in your head and everything. But as Smriti Mandana says, we don't think of the eventual thing till it happens. So we take each day as it comes. And just, screenshot all of the times when RCB stopping the table and live with it happily. So yeah, each day as it comes is the philosophy. I'm sure you must be happy too, right, Akshay? I mean, RCB doing RCB things, but in a good way this time, yeah.
I mean, thrilled to bits would probably be an understatement in all fairness. Like, I in all honesty, did not expect a performance like this. मैंने तो अपने दिमाग में मतलब मैंने मन बना लिया था कि यार देखो 5 injuries, it's very hard. I have an excuse now. I'll just latch on to that excuse, come what may. To see them perform despite all those injuries and to see them perform so well, oh my word, like Renuka Singh Thakur, of course, so many names, so many performances to talk about. We will be talking about all of them. Let's not sort of bite the bullet and jump the gun. By the way, just the one change for Delhi Capitals, Radha Yadav misses out and they've gone back to Nikki Prasad. That's a very interesting choice they've gone ahead with. In the meantime, Deepti Sharma has announced 2 changes for their side. A debutant, Chinel Henry, makes a WPL debut. Again, another change I did not see coming. Knee-jerk reaction? Probably not. We will be talking about that as well. And Rajeshwari Gaikwad also makes it into the 11. Saima Thakur will be the one missing out along with Alana King. 2 very interesting changes for UP Warriors. 2 changes I don't think I saw coming. We'll definitely talk about that as well. Probably let's start off with that. Guys, thoughts on the changes itself before we get to everything that we want to talk about in the last week. Prajakta, let's start with you. First of all, Nikki Prasad for Delhi Capitals, Chinel Henry, Rajeshwari Gaikwad for UP Warriors. What do you make of the changes?
No, I just think, I mean, it was just so-called for and it has happened and I'm very glad that it has come down to that. And also with Delhi Capitals bowling first, it has gone Delhi's way and whoever wins the toss, we've seen them eventually win the match as well. So I think these changes will do well and one can only hope for them to flourish.
All right, that seemed like a very diplomatic answer. I'm a lot more probing than you would imagine, Prajakta, but we'll get to that. I'll first ask Neha thoughts on hers. Neha, what do you make of this year? Like, did you see Chinel Henry making a debut?
Absolutely not. It was definitely not on my bingo cards, because I mean, the kind of overseas contingent that UP Warriors has, I thought Chinel Henry was probably like last on their priority list, make it into that playing 11. But as you rightly said, is it a knee-jerk reaction? Probably, got to read a little bit into that. I know Alana King didn't have the best possible games last time around, but then I think you'd still be tempted, right, to give her another go because the wicket is kind of, helping the spinners and everything. Yeah, Chinel Henry Colario, I mean, I don't know if it's again an intent, kind of beef up their batting. We saw the kind of heroics, right, Chinel Henry did in that West Indies series as well. So did that kind of also, prompt this change is something I'm also kind of thinking about. And talking about Nikki Prasad as well, right? I mean, she had a great debut, although a lot of people, kind of criticized her for her strike rate and all of that. But still, for the under-19 captain, just 19-year-old, doing that in such a pressure situation was great. And fortunately, it didn't mean curtains for her season and she gets another great game. But coming in place of Radha Yadav, why? Because is Radha Yadav injured or like what is happening there? Just a little clarity on that would be great. But interesting changes and hopefully UP Warriors can get their first win tonight, right? Because we've seen the pattern of how teams that are winning the toss are actually ending up winning the game. But yeah, seems like an interesting call nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of been a win the toss, win the game situation over here so far. Let's hope that isn't the case this time around. We see a change in that trend at least. And yeah, talking about Alana King and Chinel Henry, I for one, I don't agree with the change personally. I was really hoping to see a lot more of Alana King. I know the surface itself has not necessarily been conducive to spin, but Alana King is too good a player to be surface dependent and all of it. But he can. Let's hope for their sake at least that they will be able to open their account. Right now they're the only side in the tournament to yet to not have a win. So yeah, they will be hoping that they do get that soon enough. Anyways, let's talk about some of the things we've seen so far in the tournament. First up, of course, we cannot look past the run-out controversy that happened on Saturday. Delhi Capitals taking on Mumbai Indians. A game that was a thriller in and of itself. We did not need any other masala, but Gayatri Venugopalan had different thoughts. So like, thoda hum bhi hai bhai, hum bhi dikhate hamara jalwa. Again, for the uninitiated, basically what happened was on 3 separate occasions, the third umpire ruled the decision in the favor of the fieldings. I mean, of the batting side. They were adjudicated not out because the bails were deemed to be not broken, despite the bails lighting up a good 2 to 3 seconds prior. And the rule book clearly stated at least, that the first frame would be that where where the zinc bails light up. That would be considered as the first frame. The rules ke hisab se bhi this seemed very off, and rightfully there was a lot of criticism and everything. Only for BCCI and the WPL governing council to come back and renege on those rules a couple of days later, saying ki boss, ye rule tha hi nahi, ye rule humne change kar diya. And that was also in and of itself very bizarre, because apparently the rules were changed on the eve of the game, and the umpires had been informed, but not the teams. The teams were also informed post the game. And for a tournament like the WPL, for a board like the BCCI, यार ये सब शोभा नहीं देता यार आपको. आप ऐसे कैसे कर सकते हो कि रूल चेंज कर दिया लेकिन टीम को बोलना भूल गए? मतलब ऐसा तो है नहीं, गली क्रिकेट चल रहा है और किसी ने रूल चेंज कर दिया, आप बोलना भूल गए. Like, what did you make of the whole situation first? Neha, let's start with you on that. Like, पहली बात तो सिचुएशन का क्या मतलब, what did you make of it when we all were watching it together? Watch along चल रहा था हमारा है वहाँ पे.
Yeah, I mean, when we were watching it together, it just felt like a series of bizarre decisions. At some frames, you could see, hey, this is out, but the other frame was giving something else away. And it just felt like the umpire was coming to, a conclusion about the runouts very fast. They were not doing it again and again and again. I know they had to kind of adhere to, kind of finish the match at this specific time slot, but I just felt they were very like fast decisions. They didn't really look into like all angles and, inspect in that way. I mean, 3 run-out decisions in such crucial junctures, which kind of change the complexion of the match, right? I mean, Delhi could have by all means been on the wrong end of that result, and Harmanpreet Kaur probably would have had to not say things about the umpire later on and all of that. But then you see, right, how decisions like this can actually make such a big difference. And if you've informed the umpires like on the day of the match, why not the captains and the teams given the same thing, right? You have so many news portals, you have social media, just use it, man, to shed light on these rules, because a lot of fans were just being like outright abusive to Gayatri Venugopalan, which was just extremely unfortunate. I mean, she was just following the rule book that the bail had to be completely dislodged, not just light up. But I think this was more on the organizers' end of not kind of making the rules as transparent as possible, that led to this whole confusion. And even later, after rules were announced, people are still after the umpire. Every time she's giving her decisions, you could see people on Twitter going all guns blazing. But yeah, I think this is just one of those situations where the organizers could have done better and just given us more info about the playing conditions and how the rule had changed.
Yeah, Prajakta, again, same question to you. But before that, again, I'll have to be honest. I am an RCB fan. ये तो सबको पता है. मतलब जो भी हमें देखते हैं सबको पता है. Now, had RCB been at the receiving end of it, I'm sorry to say, Gayatri Venugopalan wouldn't have had the end of it. मतलब मैं तो रो ही देता वहाँ पे एक तो. As fans, as MI, I would have really sympathized with the MI setup if they felt hard done by. क्योंकि technically by rules they really were they were at the receiving end of some umpiring howlers, to say the least. Correct. Secondly, when it comes to such changes, isn't it important for the organizers to inform the team? Like, आप umpires को जब inform करो तो, if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, before a tournament starts, isn't there a meeting held? There's a briefing done, right, where the umpires, everyone discusses, the rules are properly explained, the owners are a part of the meeting, the captains attend that session. It's like a debriefing session of sorts, right?
Correct. That does happen. That's true.
No.
And also, I would just like to Yeah, so I would just like to add, I think the real issue lied in the delayed communication. The team should have been informed about the change before the match, not after. That is what the speculation or even the real story tells us. And I think Gayatri Venugopalan just got the fire for no reason or no mistake of hers. I just think she followed the correct interpretation of the rule and ensuring consistency despite the controversy. It just didn't happen once, as you mentioned. But then, obviously, while we were viewing that match, we didn't know about the rules, but she sitting in that box knew better than all of us. And I think she took the right decision. So, with the dislodged and both the spy gods coming off the grooves, I think whatever calls she made were absolutely correct, keeping in mind she knew those rules. Obviously, we as viewers had different thought, particularly in that match. Post that, everything has changed. So, yeah.
Another question there. परसों के Delhi Bangalore match में भी, if you guys remember, Jenny was out stumped. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, वहां पे what did you make of it? ठीक है. All things considered, Gayatri Venugopalan cannot be blamed for the Delhi Mumbai game because she knew of the rules, so she was going by the rule book. But yeah, यहाँ पे थोड़ा, where do you draw the line between following the rule book to the T and just applying some common sense? साफ साफ दिख रहा है stumps have been broken. But if you still choose to say कि हाँ, the bails don't seem to be dislodged, because had Jenny been a centimeter in, and that could have been a judge not out, and had that been a judge not out yet again, she wouldn't have had the end of it from me. So इसीलिए, so again, where do you think, Prajakta, you can probably go first here?
No, I just think that was quite harsh as well as quite controversial umpiring decision. However, it does not overshadow a bad day in the office. I mean, I just don't, honestly, that was not the most best decisions that Gayatri might have made. And it was just about inches and all of that being involved. But then again, umpiring has been a howler, if I would just say to that. And I really hope that gets better too, because with a lot of DRS coming in with the camera angles, with, n number of broadcasters involved, I think it's high time we, because these decisions make a huge impact on a win, on a loss, on those 2 points that the teams are fighting on the ground. So one can just expect that all of these things just get better from here on. Considering this is third season, it already should have, but one can just hope it gets better from this season itself.
And Neha, again, like, do you think fans or viewers of the game are being too harsh over here? Because again, the same decision, like DCMI, ठीक है, fair enough. We'll have to give the benefit of doubt where it's due because हमें नहीं पता था. It's probably the organizers are the ones to be blamed and not necessarily the third umpire. But when a decision like this happens, well, sure, at the end of the day, the correct decision was made. ये वो मतलब बचपन में जब एग्जाम्स होता था ना, करेक्ट आंसर तो लिख लेते थे लेकिन बीच के स्टेप्स तो गलत थे ना. लाइक द वे यू अराइव एट दैट राइट आंसर, इफ इट्स रॉन्ग, तो फिर फायदा क्या हुआ? लाइक it was nerve wracking to say the least, right? When you see something like that happens, it seems obviously out, but even then, a third umpire takes so much time citing the bails not being broken. Where do you draw the line between just following the rule book and saying ठीक है, दिख रहा है साफ साफ कि टूटा है, चलो आउट, आगे बढ़ते हैं?
Yeah, I think in this case, she's just trying to exercise caution as much as possible, take her time to kind of arrive at that decision. But that's also thinking more on the lines of I mean, you have technology for a reason, right? To kind of aid decision making, to just make life simple. You don't have to rely on manual things and all of that. But the very fact that LED pails are like lighting up prematurely and they are not probably in the best possible condition, I'm not sure what are you trying to say, right? I mean, if you look at the WBBL again. Sorry to take this example. You don't see a lot of mistakes like that happening, right? Where the bail is lighting up SAE and all of that. So I think it's more a reflection of like, why are we not just using technology properly? Even for the Jemmy dismissal, till I think they arrived from the other angle to see, till then I think they were still convinced, maybe the bail actually didn't get dislodged and all of that. So it just causes so much confusion. I think the bigger and the more pertinent question to ask is like, why was the LED bail not working properly? And is this rule just going to be applicable for this edition, or are they probably going to consider, next edition, maybe will we have these LED bails? Will we get another, set of another company to kind of do these bails for us, and what will it mean for the playing conditions? Just a little more clarity on that would make sense, because the fans are always at the receiving end. At this point, I think fans are the biggest consumers of this game, and the results mean a lot more to us. I mean, players obviously, But then I think these aspects need to be looked into, and tech has to be integrated better into the game, not to make it more complicated, but to actually, aid the game. Yeah.
Yeah, those are very valid points to be honest, and I do agree with you. Like, firstly, bails ke bare mein bhi there needs to be some questions asked. Ki boss, how is it possible that the bails weren't tested? Ki kya hua? And coming to your query about whether the rules been changed or not or what, I'm guessing it's only for this edition of the WPL because of that incorrect batch of bails that were brought in. So once you get your regular batch, jahan pe it accurately lights up when the bails are dislodged, and I don't think this rule would be necessary. So I'm guessing it's specifically for this edition. But again, we'll have to hold our
Oh,
thoughts
but
on it. And
shockingly,
just
if I can just add, BCCI has been using these zinc bails both in bilateral as well as domestic cricket, including the IPL and also the WPL. So we really don't know if it was a technical bit of an error or was it the error of, yeah, it's quite technical if we get into that.
For sure, for sure. Meanwhile, let's just take a few comments. First of all, I'm being called out here by Ranjit. Akshay, you're wrong. The rule change was informed before the match. Please recheck on your sources. You guys, I mean, the WPL franchises are big. You guys should check on consistently for any new updates. Ranjit, as things stand, as much as we've been able to read up on it, this was a chain of events. Saturday morning, ko these third umpires were, I mean, all the umpires were informed of the rule change. Post the game, Delhi and MI, the teams were also informed of the rule change post the game, not before the game, which is why there was so much hue and cry surrounding it. So correct me if I'm wrong, happy to be proven wrong. जितना हम online पढ़ पाए, जितना लोगों ने भी इसके बारे में report किया, this was the sequence of events, which is why fans were also extremely distraught. But happy to be proven wrong. So I hope that answers your question. Meanwhile, Sumo Casters, is the same rule going to continue on IPL as well? Who is responsible to confirm this to the public? Again, Sumuk, like we discussed earlier, this is specifically for this edition of the WPL because of the bails use, because of the batch of bails not exactly working as effectively as they should. So I don't think it'll be applicable to the IPL and all of that. नहीं तो वो अलग से बताएंगे हमें बाद में. फिलहाल, as things stand, this is only for this WPL. And who is responsible? Of course, the WPL governing committee, the BCCI, they are responsible to ensure that this is communicated to the audience, to the media in general. So hopefully we will get to know of it soon. Melville asks us, guess the rule is changed. What is the updated one? The updated rule very clearly states that the first frame is when the third umpire deems the bails to be dislodged. Very simple. Do not look at the lights. The lights have absolutely it's extremely cosmetic. अभी light सिर्फ चमकता है और कुछ है नहीं, उसका कोई use नहीं है. So don't look at the lights flickering. You'll have to wait for the third umpire to confirm that the bails have been dislodged from the groove. Until then, it'll be deemed not out. So that's the rule, Melville and all of you folks. Meanwhile, this seems like a new handle. Afridi says, okay, it's not Afridi, it's Afrid. RCB women has a match in the Ekana Stadium. RCB will get huge fan support after what we saw in Vadodara. The RCB Unbox event is happening on the 15th of March, and if the women's team qualify for the final, there will be 17 of 18. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, but okay. Wait, the RCB Unbox event's happening on the 15th. They confirm hua kya kahin pe? I have no clue of this.
The last time I heard, they're not going to have an unbox event, is what I learned about.
Exactly. I'd also heard the same. And I don't think they'll hold, even if they want to hold one, I
Yeah,
don't think
there's
they'll
no
do
chance they do that on the day of
fine.
the WPL
Exactly.
final. Correct.
So let's hold on to that as well. Meanwhile, Sachin's asked us this, so let's just take this question before we move on to our next talking point. Nicky's emission after the first game caused him the stability in that second match against RCB. So with having a lefty arm spinner in Jess Jonathan already in, they seem to have dropped Radha Yadav. Alana's drop seems like an immature decision, to be honest. Again, Prajakta, thoughts on Nikki Prasad being brought back in? Of course, she had a fantastic debut, but understandably so, she was dropped in the second game when Jess and Marizan Ka both were fit to play. But do you think that, Delhi Capitals probably could have given Radha Yadav an extended rope, given that she is an India regular and whatnot?
So I just think backing the Indian talent is one of the key and two key roads towards consistency, because we've seen Mumbai Indians, we've seen even Gujarat for that matter, where they just are very much banking upon their overseas group of talent, which is not wrong, obviously. But you're hosting a tournament in India, you're playing in India, people are familiar with the conditions, especially Vadodara. These girls have played. I mean, not all of them, but at least most of them, because they've held their camps, be it in Surat or Vadodara, same playing conditions. So they know the conditions better than the overseas ones who are coming in just 12 or 15 days prior to the tournament, and you expect them to go all guns blazing. That's not going to happen. Not from the first to the second match. And I've always been a firm believer, when the first match is not maybe gone your way, it's better you do not make like vast changes into your second game, because it will always derail you from from where you're supposed to be. So yeah.
I mean, agree with those points. And to be honest, this is where I think some of the teams aren't given enough credit for, backing some of the domestic players. Like UP Warriors come to mind. The fact that they have decided to take that punt on their domestic youngsters and given them a role at the top, instead of just, shunning them down the order or not giving them a ball, like a certain team that has a gun spinner amidst their ranks but gives them 0 overs across 2 games. उनको बस एक specialist fielder के तौर पे खिलाते हैं. No names taken, so no shots fired. But Mumbai Indians, just beware. Anyways, time for us to now talk about the next talking point, of course. Run out controversy के बारे में तो काफी बात कर लिया हमने. The next one we would want to talk about is Vadodara as a venue. Earlier, we had a comment also saying or talking about, how we saw so many fans throng the stadium, especially for RCB games, and how we've seen a lot of support for the tournament in general. But guys, what have you made of Vadodara as a venue? Let's probably start off with the surface itself. What have you made of it? Has it been good enough to organize a T20 tournament of the stature of a WPL? Prajakta, you can probably start here.
No, I would just first like to start with the crowd that has been coming in, like 15,000 fans thronging in daily. It doesn't matter if it's a weekend, it's a weekday. People are just coming into a stadium, and let's not forget that Vadodara is not one of the most accessible cities to go out to, because it's not Ahmedabad and Motera where you're attending a match. So like obviously, apart from that, when it comes to the conditions, obviously a dew factor is playing a big role. The presence of dew in evening matches has been significantly impacting the game. And as we spoke previously, teams winning the toss are going on to win the game as well. So I think about that. But then obviously WPL going on to different geographical places is way too good. And Gujarat Giants getting a home, so-called home, is also, I just think with the kind of vast expansion we've had, it started with just one single venue being Mumbai and Navi Mumbai in the first edition, and then Delhi, Bangalore in the second, and now we have 4. It's quite a good change, especially in season 3, and it's on a fast trail track, is something that I would say. But and I just think nothing is going to stop them from giving every team a home starting next year onwards. But Vadodara has been quite good.
I mean, those are big words. Fingers crossed. We get to see WPL also move to that, typical home and away structure that we've seen in the IPL as well. But Neha, again, in terms of how the crowd has been for each of these fixtures, we even heard Smriti Mandana speak at toss. Kya aisa lagta hum log Bangalore mein hi khel rahe. It seems like this is RCB's home venue. But again, we must be extremely thrilled about the kind of crowds we've seen so far in Vadodara.
Exactly. I mean, initially when the toss happens and the camera pans across the stadium, you don't see that many fans. Just fans coming in. But as the match progresses, you kind of see all the fans coming in, which is great signs, right? Not just for the optics, but also for the women's game. We have the ODI World Cup that's coming later this year, and with venues like this also being able to attract crowds. I'm just excited to see when in your other usual venues, what will the scene be like. I think just today, right, the RCB tickets were also like phase-wise released, and they just sold out like certain parts of the stand. So you can see the kind of excitement that's happening even in venues like Vadodara, right? So it was amazing to see that. Even a lot of franchises, right, they've been making the extra effort to go to these cricketing academies, have a chat with the fans and everything. So there's like a proper outreach effort, trying to market the game properly. So in that sense, massive positive with how the crowds have been coming in. Even the surface, I think we were watching the pre-match stuff. Or for the first 2 games, I think they used one pitch, so it was like high scoring, and we saw all of that happening. But I think now they're using slightly left wala pitch, which is turning out to be a stickler for teams which are batting first and can't really play spin that well. I think it's still an advertisement for the T20 game, right? Because as much as we see all of these run fests and all of that, if you see too many 200 totals like we did in IPL, it just feels like T20 on steroids, and then you're like, this is getting a lot. I think low scoring thrillers are like most of our jams, right? We really like to see how teams can actually do that, wriggle themselves out of those tough situations and actually end up on the winning side. Even the teams chasing in all of these matches so far have had their, fair share of trials and tribulations, struggled a little, and then, pull that amazing win with that one match-defining knock. So far, yeah, it's been great. No complaints at all with the surface. I'm not sure if everyone in the comments would agree with me, but then, yeah, at least these have been my thoughts so far on Vadodara.
Comments का I mean आप टेंशन मत लो, पैनल में ही है जो disagree करेंगे. For one, I think I don't think I'll complain about the surface per se, because the surface has still been sportive enough, for T20 games. So that way, I don't think I have any qualms as such. But if I have to look at the surface in general, like Neha mentioned, game 1, game 2 happened on the same surface. Game 3, game 4 happened on the same surface. Yesterday, they switched to a fresh surface that will also be used today. So they've probably just gone ahead with 3 strips, because today is, of course, the last day of the Vadodara leg, tomorrow being a rest day, and then day after we see the Bangalore leg starting. But yeah, in terms of how the surfaces have played so far, we know in general T20s in India, especially the ones that are played in evening, are always going to be favoring the side chasing. So again, it's no sort of secret over there. But I just feel that the kind of impact Dew has had, especially in the first couple of games, that probably was something that could have been done away with. We've seen the anti-Dew sprays being used in IPL, and I thought something similar could have been used then. But uske baad maine jitna dekha game 3, game 4, game 5, yesterday, last 3 games, not a lot of Dew has been seen. At least it hasn't been just as pronounced as the first couple of days. But I'll still hold on to my thoughts on those, because 2025 है यार, अभी भी अगर Dew का reason है तो मतलब that's where I think it just unnecessarily favors or skews the game in a certain side's favor, the side chasing in this case. And I don't think that should be the case. मतलब toss की वजह से, and as much as teams might not use that as an excuse, because again, even they realize, Ashley Gardner herself spoke about this, at the end of the second game, where she spoke about the tournament opener and how the fielding was poor, Dew bahut tha. But they won't use that as an excuse, because these guys are professional athletes. They're expected to do well. It is a given कि Dew हो सकता है, तो wet ball के साथ कैसे field करना है, कैसे ball डालना है, ये सब practice भी करते हैं. So it's not something that they've never had to contend with. But now coming to the surface itself, that's where I felt, especially how the new ball underlies. Now have a look at the power play in the first innings. It's been very difficult to bat. In each of the 5 games so far, there's been a reason why no team has been able to score more than 45 runs in the first innings power play. So वहां पे काफी मुश्किल रहा है bowlers के, batters के लिए. So when such disparities happen, it makes it that much more difficult for a side losing the toss to win the game. And that's why, I just don't like, decision being predetermined so early on in the game. मैच शुरू होने से पहले अगर तुम्हें लग जाता है कि यार ठीक है अभी हार गई ये टीम, तो वो अच्छा नहीं लगता बस. बाकी तो of course completely agree with both of you in terms of the crowds. I've been pleasantly surprised. I probably even have to wipe the egg of my face, because I was one of those naysayers who felt कि यार वडोदरा में तुम क्यों खिला रहे हो यार, बैंगलोर में दे देते थोड़े और games, they are bloody defending champions, दिल्ली में खिला लेते and all of that. But kudos to Vadodara, kudos to the folks there. Fantastic crowds. It's been great to watch that. And yeah, like Prajakta said, fingers crossed, hopefully we will get to see WPL also move to that typical home and away structure. It'll just add to the flavor of the tournament. It'll just make it a lot more professional. It'll be a different dimension that's being added to the tournament. Players now will have to contend with travel and other constraints, and that's what makes it a lot more professional, and that's what makes it such a fantastic tournament. So fingers crossed for that as well. Coming back, of course, 3-2-1. I'm guessing the first ball of the game will happen in some time. But yeah, time probably for us to now talk about the points table and how what we've seen so far in the last week or so. अब तक हमने सिर्फ tournament के बारे में बात किया. Let's get into the nitty-gritties. And Kiran Navgere swipes that hard. I hope that's a boundary. Sorry, beg your pardon. But yeah, coming to the points table. There we go. Neha, thoughts on the points table and how it's looking? Probably अभी screenshot लेके tournament बंद करवाते.
हाँ यार, अभी बंद करवा दो, stop the count, because RCB has clearly won those 2 matches. The net run rate, मतलब नजर वाला टीका भी लगा दो, because this is not going to happen again. But jokes apart, the points table does look very competitive. We see teams, having registered 1 win at least. Except of course UP Warriors. But even the way, right, the likes of Mumbai, GG, and Delhi Capitals are looking like strong contenders this time around. I'm hoping we see a slightly different top 3. RCB should be in that top 3, but would be very happy to see have someone like a GG or a UP Warriors also, kind of make the cut in that top three. Delhi has looked slightly off color. I mean, you guys can also share your thoughts on this one. And UP is, still trying to find their feet, but Gujarat, barring that one loss, still kind of, okay, barring those two losses, still, kind of looks like somewhat of a unit that can, pose a challenge. Again, depends heavily on how Ash Gardner kind of performs. But all, yeah, I think the table is still wide open. And considering, they're going across to different venues and all of that, game on. I mean, just hoping, all the teams can kind of get those crucial wins. But as an RCB fan, staying true to that, I would definitely hope they are in the top three. And I think it's a fantastic start to the tournament for them.
Yeah, for sure. But let's probably start from the bottom of the table there. UP Warriors, Prajakta. So far, just one game into the tournament. So, again, not too much to look into the fact that they are bottom place and already started off very well. First two balls being smashed for 2 boundaries by Kiran Navgire. So, hopefully, we are in for a Kiran Navgire special tonight. But again, languishing at the bottom. What have you made of the 11 they came up with on day one? Kiran Navgire, Vrinda Dinesh, Umar Chetri, Deepti Sharma, and all Indian top four. That's almost unprecedented in the WPL. We always see some superstar being featured, some overseas superstar being featured at the top. You want someone who has that experience, who adds a bit of that oomph factor. But the fact that they've chosen to go ahead with this domestic top four, all in all, thoughts on the 11, the squad they've gone ahead with this time around?
I think the first match was like largely one-sided because after the couple of high-scoring games, this was suddenly a low-scorer one, and just 144. 143 was the target, and Gujarat just have to chase 144. So with the squad, with Deepti being the captain, obviously with Healy not being around, it was. I don't think it was quite surprising that they trusted their Indian a lot much, and especially when Deepti has always entrusted the Indians more. I really didn't think that whatever squad that they came up with was like a shocker or anything of that sort. So yeah, hopefully now that you've just said that they smashed 2 boundaries, but again, that stinging thought of again DC winning the toss, I really don't know how this will go.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. But Kiran Navgire has decided कि आज तो वो एक ही तरीके से खेलने वाली है. 4 attacking shots so far in the first over, 11 for no loss at the end of the first over, of course. Again, not a watch along, but it might seem that way. Apologies for it, especially all you folks joining in later on Spotify. थोड़ा हम बस आपको मैच का भी नजारा दे रहे हैं in case you didn't get a chance. Probably taking it back, just rewinding the clock and taking back to the good old radio days. How does it seem like radio commentary? Okay, there you go. But Neha, again, in terms of the UP setup, I for one am thrilled because this was exactly the 11 I had gone ahead with in our tournament preview. I wanted them to field an 11 like this because this actually lends a lot more balance to their side. It allows them to use a lot more overseas options or slots for their bowlers, which is where they were going to struggle with. They did not have too many domestic pacers. So that way, this does seem to be a lot more well-rounded as an 11. But what have you made of, the side they went ahead with that day and considering what they've gone ahead with today as well?
Yeah, I mean, first things first, I think as vouching for Deepti Sharma, the captain, because with Ellyse Healy somewhere, because she's an overseas captain and, an overseas player, you're kind of compelled to play her, but her not playing this season, I think we have spoken about, sort of being a blessing in disguise. Probably not the best start to UP's campaign, losing that one match and with the net run rate looking a little scary there. Not the ideal start probably for Deepti Sharma's captaincy as well. But again, echoing similar sentiments as Prajakta, that UP Warriors kind of, really trust their Indian core to do the job. Credit goes to Lisa Stelekar. I mean, she's the mentor. John Lewis as well, I think John Lewis is doing something right. Let's not talk about the women's ashes, but at least with the UP Warriors setup, seems to be entrusting his Indian core to do the job. But even with the overseas picks, right? I mean, today's match, we see T-Mac, we see Grace Harris, there's Chanel Henry and Sophie Eccleston. So I hope they kind of go well. Because again, you don't want to kind of see a change in that in the team composition, kind of getting mixed up here and there. In all fairness, yeah, I think UP Warriors again will look at this season as a way to kind of get better from where they left off last time around, where they ended up fourth on the table. So even if they make it, end up third on the table and make it to that eliminator, I think they would still pat themselves on the back. I think they have Deepti Sharma, man. She's been the MVP last season, did exceedingly well. So So yeah, so far it's too early to make like a judgment call. Ki, haan, UP is like this because just one game, and this game too. I think they would really be in good stead if they bat first, put on a good total, because DC has looked off color. So if they can kind of capitalize on that and put on a big total, I think it would still be game on, and they can actually stifle DC's batting.
I mean, I don't think they could have asked for a better start in order to put on a good total. Kiran Avgiri, 18 or 7, 4 boundaries off of first set, 7 deliveries. Fantastic to watch that. Shikhar Pandey also not being left alone over here. But Prajakta, again, given how the UP Warriors, the kind of 11 they've gone ahead with, let's first take this comment from Sports Fan. He goes on to say if they don't have the confidence in Chamari, then they should have probably signed another overseas opener at the auction, presumably. Hendy playing as another overseas option does not really make sense. What do you make of that? Do you think, in hindsight, or probably even back then around the auction itself, they could have done away with someone like a Chamari Attapattu and gone for a better option at the auction?
Like 100%, because I think she's been quite a performer, and with again consistently changing, especially UP is playing their second game today, and they've already named those changes, especially in the overseas department. Again, doesn't make you consistent at all, and just giving, maybe we don't even know that if the player that has come in today, Henry, will be given a long rope or not. Obviously depends on her performance, but if you just bring on someone like her and then you just drop her the third game, it again wouldn't help the player, neither the team. So I really think they could have done better in the auctions, especially with Chamari, but UP doing UP things. Yeah.
I mean, the question that I really haven't been able to answer for myself is UP Warriors ended the auction with over 3 crores left and they
Crores
failed to
left.
place a bid
Yeah.
for Deandra Doughton. मतलब Deandra Doughton थी ही वहाँ पे. Say what you want. Again, I'm not saying Deandra Doughton is the solution to every problem there exists, but she would have solved most problems for them. A gun all-rounder who's been in great batting form, who's been in great bowling form, who's a gun fielder as well. I'm guessing John Lewis had different ideas. Let's just hope at least his ideas or the team's ideas work for them. Of course, they are again a side filled with a lot of youthful exuberance, so that's something really something to look forward to. But again, started off well there. Vrinda Dinesh also scoring her first boundary. Neha, we've spoken enough about her coming from a great senior women's T20 trophy, great senior women's ODI trophy, a one-day trophy. So hopefully this would be the season where she actually makes a name for herself and potentially even make the leap to what is potentially a Team India cape for the waiting there. So fingers crossed for that. But talking about the next team in the points table, number 4 पे कौन है भाई? Number 4 पे UP Warriors के आज के opponents. It is none other than, of course, the Delhi Capitals. Prajakta, what have you made so far of the 2-time finalists? Not exactly started off as well as they would have wanted to.
So again, I would say Meg Lanning, a leader under pressure, because the legendary Australian captain, the former one, needs to up her game a little bit, as her form has been under scrutiny. Since obviously she's not getting a lot of game time, but then coming in over here, she could have joined the camp a lot earlier. But in the last 2 games, we haven't seen Meg Lanning as the Meg Lanning, and also although she remains tactically sharp, but I still think her batting performance haven't matched the expectations so far. And with Delhi Capitals aiming or eyeing a strong finish, her experience and ability to anchor the innings will be quite crucial in the coming matches.
It'll be very crucial, to be honest. Something Neha and I have also been speaking about is the fact that she's coming from not exactly a lot of game time, and also the fact that WBBL maybe वो lead नहीं करी है, 100 maybe उन्होंने lead नहीं किया था. So again, captaincy, sure, she is a legend in her own right. I don't think there's any two questions about it. But that will definitely be adding some pressure on her. I still remember the visuals after her dismissal in the last game against, was it the RCB game or was it probably a game we were doing the watch along for? It was the MI game, na Neeto. Like we were doing a watch along for it. Meg Lanning looked so conceited. It almost seemed like she just wanted to get done with this and she's really over this. And that's not a look we want to see. We all know what sort of a ruthless competitor Meg Lanning is. And we just hope that we get to see a lot more of that as well. And she'll be the first one to admit that matlab meko compete karna hai. She is a fierce competitor and she will do well. So make no mistake, she's not someone to be counted out for, even if she's had success or failure. So I don't think we have to look past it. But Neha, how much of a role do you think that whole Jess Jonathan, Marizan Cup missing out in the first game, a bit of that unnecessary or unforeseen tweaks that they had to make. Do you think that's also probably played a role in the team not starting off as well as they would have wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, these were definitely forced changes, that they had to make, and that definitely affects the team composition as well. I mean, just talking a little bit about the Mumbai Indians versus Delhi match, that, I mean, Delhi did eventually eke out that win. But again, the way they kind of got wickets of Mumbai, right, when Mumbai was batting first, I think they kind of, just got their leg off the paddle at one point, because it let Mumbai Indians get to that 165. I mean, they just could not get the wicket of Nat Silverbrand. So for me, the bowling has been, a bone of contention, and that is again kind of exposed in that RCB game as well, right? I mean, I know the conditions are entirely, favoring the teams that are chasing, but the attack looked very toothless. Even when Marzan Kaap and Jess Johnson got back for that game versus RCB, they just weren't at their incisive best, right? I know it's difficult to expect them to come and, just produce miracles. And, we are again basing our opinions on past laurels and what they have done priorly. But then still, it felt like, they just didn't put in their best show. And Delhi's bowling, like, as much as we rave about, the enviable batting depth, stacked with all rounders, bowling ke itne options hai. But so far, it's just looked extremely concerning for me in that regard. Agree with Prajakta there on the point that they depend on Meg Lanning, to be that linchpin for them, to, guide them to those big totals. Shefali has done well, something I'm excited to talk about in probably our top performers segment. But you need Meg Lanning firing at the other end. Otherwise, things get really difficult, and Delhi may not be able to replicate, the kind of performances they've put in 2023 and 2024. So they would hope, kind of get their act together. And probably tonight's match should do that. But seeing Akshay's reactions, well, UP is clearly giving them the stick. Yeah.
They need a lot more than hope, I can assure you that. Kiran Navgire right now, we've been speaking about her troubles against the short ball. She's just dismissively pulled Marizan Ka for a six. For a six.
Across the deep mid wicket, yeah.
Yeah, and just a couple of balls ago, Vrinda Dinesh also, the way she tonked Marizan Cup, again, not a boundary, that was just a single, but timed the bones of the ball. Bhai Saab, ominous signs for Delhi Capitals here. Both the UP Warriors openers here are looking in great touch, and fingers crossed we'll get to see them do some extremely good things over here. It's looking very positive for UP Warriors. 37 for no loss right now, 3 overs done. Delhi Capitals ki baat kare, let's take this comment though. Sports fan asks us, Jenny at 3, yes or no? What should be the ideal batting order according to you? I'll probably start off with this, and then we can set the stage for Prajakta and Neha. Okay, Vrinda steps down the track there. To be honest, before the tournament began, the 11 that I had conceived for Delhi Capitals was fairly obvious in my head. मतलब मेरे को लगा यार ये तो obvious ही बात है, ऐसे ही खिला लो. So I had Meg Lanning Shefali opening. I had Nandini Kashyap at number 3, but if they went ahead with Sarah Bryce, they could have had Sarah Bryce at number 3. She opens primarily for Scotland, but she's also batted at number 3 for Sydney Sixers. Oh my word! Kiran Navgiri steps down the track, another 6 here. Fantastic shot. Really blowing Jess Johnson out of the equation over here. But coming back, number 3, Sarah Bryce / Nandini Kashyap. I probably had Nandini ahead in that pecking order, but Number 4, I had Jemmy. That's where she's primarily played for Delhi Capitals in the first 2 seasons. Number 5, Marizan Kaap. Number 6, Jess Johnson. Number 7, I had all your all-rounders coming in. You can have... I had Annabelle Sutherland at number 6, Jess Johnson number 7, Arundhati Reddy, Shikha Pandey 8, 9, Radha Yadav 10, and I'm guessing one of the spinners, Minu Mani or anyone at number 11. This is basically how I had thought. Nandini Kashyap hasn't made the cut. They've also gone ahead with Jemmy at 3. Prajakta, जब पहले मैच में उन्होंने जेमी को 3 पे खिलाया, it seemed like a stopgap solution because Marizan Kaap and Jess Johnson both weren't playing. But we saw them repeat that against RCB as well. So do you think this is a strategy for this season?
And again, Jamie, for first match around 5 runs, and then the second match also, I think it was 34 of 22. But when she was playing at 4 and it was good enough, they reached the finals of the last season. I did not see any point to shift her batting order anywhere. I think on 4 she's perfect, and that spot totally belongs to her. Giving her an opportunity to open at 3, you cannot expect her to just start going out for runs at number 3, because again she hasn't batted at that position, not at least in the WPL. So I didn't think it was a very good decision that Delhi Capitals made. Obviously, we would love to see her at 4. I would love to see her at 4.
I mean, again, same thing. Why broke something? I mean, why fix something that's not broken? जब अच्छा चल रहा था आपका, क्यों आपको ये फिक्स करने की जरूरत थी? नंबर 3 पे आपको एक प्लेयर चाहिए था. You could have very easily played Sarah Bryce there. She's in fact given a good account of herself in the first couple of games. Both games very impactful cameos. So I hope they are able to, sort of rewire their 11 and understand कि हाँ ठीक है यार, अपने को promote करने की जरूरत नहीं है जेनी को. She's a fantastic number 4 for us, so let's just have her there. But I mean, hopefully we can see that. Neha, let's take this question for you. Asim Hunt saying, would DC be feeling a tad bit sad that they can't target Alana today, or would they be happy to avoid her? For a change, a foreigner is given the same treatment that domestic players get for not performing. Do you think, my question probably from this for you is not कि whether Alana King के लिए वो खुश है, मतलब chuck that. Do you think it was fair on UP Warriors' part to drop Alana King? Like we talk about domestic players facing that treatment, then don't you think the solution is कि domestic players को लंबा रोक दो, ना कि overseas players को भी जल्दी से हटा दो?
Yeah, that is definitely a tad bit surprising. I mean, as much as all of us have been raving about, UP Warriors and the think tank giving opportunities to that Indian core and, persisting with them in spite of that first failure, I think Alana King ko ek match khilane ke baad dropping her didn't, really sit well with me, right? Because she's coming off of a great women's ashes, something we have spoken at length about in our watch-alongs, in all of our previews and everything. Would have loved to see, if she'd have made a comeback and if she could have actually ended up playing well and challenging the UP batters as well. Some of them who really, really struggle against spin. And this is Alana King we are talking about. And I don't know, man, how to make the second part of the statement that a foreigner is given the same treatment as domestic players. I mean, Atiti Devo Bhava and all, but then if they're not performing, at least give them like 3-4 matches and then take a decision, and which is something Gujarat might potentially do, right? Considering how Laura Wolfart has kind of not been giving them the dividends, that's something they could possibly consider. But at least give them 3 matches. I know WPL just has like 8 league matches, and usi mein you'll have to figure out your best team combination and everything. But then a few matches wouldn't have be harmful. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Navgire here, 16 ball 42, a fantastic 6. This time, Shikha Pandey being on the receiving end. Oh my word, she started off really well here. Fingers crossed for her. Sports fan correctly asking us what's the fastest 15 women's cricket. I don't have an answer for that off the top of my head. But WPL में शायद 20 ball ही होगा, 18-20 ball का. But
I
again,
think the fastest 15 WPL is by Sophia Dunkley. Balls, I don't remember
18
exactly.
balls, 18 balls. It was back in 2023. Yeah.
We were at the receiving end of it. I remember. So, oh, has she been dropped there? I guess she's been dropped over here. Okay, let's see. I don't know if it was on the bounce or not. But of course, coming back, Neha, you spoke about Laura Wolfart and how potentially she is now at the end of the rope that Gujarat Giants would want to give her. Time for us to now also talk about the very same side, currently at number 3. Thank God for a second. I thought I got it wrong there. Just got it right. But Laura Wolfart has started for the Gujarat Giants. I did not see this coming. I know a lot of folks online felt that Laura को chance देना चाहिए because Laura and Beth forged a fantastic opening partnership for them in 2024. Prajakta, before the season began, did you have Laura in your starting 11 or did you have Phoebe in your starting 11? And importantly, where did you want that overseas slot to feature? Did you want an overseas opener along with Beth, or did you think there should be someone in the middle order?
No, I always had Phoebe Litchfield in my team, a must-play option. The young Australian batter has been warming the bench, and that's quite surprising. But her inclusion could and will be a game changer for the team. It goes without saying. Known for her composure and the attacking style, I think Litchfield can provide the much-needed the solidity to the team, especially in the middle order. And with some of the teams still struggling for the consistency in batting, I think Gujarat does have an option to explore, and why haven't they explored is also the answer that we are expecting from them. But then bringing her could be a move worth considering sooner rather than later.
For sure. And you have Phoebe opening with Beth Mooney, or you have her slightly, batting slightly low. Where do you want her to play?
No, properly in the middle order, not in the opening, for sure.
All right, fair enough. Neha, again, thoughts on how Gujarat Giants batting has panned or fared so far? Do you still think Laura Wolfart needs or deserves another shot at the apple, bite at the apple, or do you think it's time for Phoebe Litchfield to be unleashed?
Probably it is time for Phoebe Litchfield to be unleashed, right? Again, echo similar sentiment to what Prajakta has said. Every single time she's gotten those opportunities for Australia, she has actually excelled, right? And even though she's kind of been used as a floater, has been extremely flexible, across formats and across the batting order as well. Considering, Gujarat kind of heavily depends on Ash Gardner to, give them those match-defining knocks and everything. Having someone like Phoebe also, kind of balances things out, and she can also come in and do the damage. Mind you, she is an electric fielder. We've seen Gujarat be atrocious on the field, dropping some very ridiculous catches, sometimes back to back. Like I think like last night's match where Kashmi got
RCB
just
game as well. Yeah.
RCB game as well. Exactly. I mean, bhai, you put 200 on the board and you're finding it tough to defend that. It's just very ridiculous. Speaks
Richa Ghosh
about
off
your
the
bowling.
first ball. They dropped Richa off the first ball.
Exactly, and giving Perry also so many opportunities, right? So all of
Correct.
these opportunities will definitely come to bite them back. So I think Phoebe Litchfield can add that X factor to their to their playing 11 composition as well. And with a heavy heart, yes, Laura will have to probably take a step back again when WPL has more teams. She will get opportunities to play for other teams. But right now, in Gujarat's best interest, probably giving Phoebe Litchfield that opportunity will amp up their middle order batting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree with you more there. All I can tell Michael Klinger is I told you so. पहले से ही बोला था भाई आपको ये करने की जरूरत थी नहीं, but आपने किया, आपने ट्राई किया, नहीं काम चला. At least I hope again. I don't think we should blame teams for getting their first 11s wrong, because that's how it works. Yeah, form is not something you have control over. So fair enough. You gave it a shot. You tried to experiment. Not even experiment. You wanted to continue with it because that's what it worked for you last year. Fair. Now it's important you understand that this hasn't worked. So you need to course correct. That's where good teams separate themselves from the best. I mean, or rather, that's where the better teams, the best teams, separate themselves from the good and the mediocre. Because if you don't course correct, if you don't make those changes at the right point in time, like this, I think, is the best possible time for someone like a Phoebe Litchfield to be brought in. It'll add a lot more, sort of stability in the middle order. You can have someone like a Harleen Deol open. I understand that Harleen might not be the best choice, given that Harleen and Beth both are similar kind of batters. Oh, fantastic shot, Vrinda. Straight down the ground, boundary for her. But both are similar kind of batters, anchor type, tend to take their time and all of it. बट अभी जो है सो है भाई. आपने ऑक्शन में इतना गंदा हक दिया 3 साल पहले, तो you have to bear the brunt of it. Like this is exactly why it is important you don't f around with your auctions. थोड़ा दिमाग होना चाहिए. जब आपको पता है 5 मार्की प्लेयर्स है, उनमें से एक उठाना चाहिए तो एक उठाना चाहिए. बस सीधी सी बात है. ज्यादा यहाँ पे सोचना नहीं चाहिए. And again, probably a rant for another day, so I'll save that. Coming back though, let's take a couple of comments here. Of course, Cool Insan Reacts also agreeing with us, saying Harleen Deol to open and Litchfield at the end would be great. We all know Phoebe Litchfield's numbers for Australia at number 6. Strike rate of over 140, average of over 40. She's been phenomenally good for Australia in the middle order. Sure, Sydney Thunder के लिए she bats higher up. But यहाँ पे जरूरत कहाँ पे, वो भी अपने को देखना चाहिए. And that's when now, imagine Gardner at 4, Doughton at 5, Litchfield at 6. Oof. That's
Dreamlike.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't have asked for anything more. And add to that, like Neha said, gun fielder, an absolute gun fielder, arguably the best fielder going around right now in international cricket. So you would want that a bit of that, electric fielding ability on the field as well. So yeah, there's absolutely no reason why she shouldn't be brought into the 11 ASAP. So fingers crossed, we will get to see that. Let's take a couple more comments before we move on to the next side. Summit going on to say, unless there's an injury or the pitch conditions are unfavorable, domestic or overseas players should not be dropped after a game. Agree with you there, Summit. That's echoing our thoughts there. It is a tad bit unfair on Alana King's part, because she could have probably done wonders for the side, with her wrist spin. But he kept there. Giant also going on to say, I think Alana King had an off day like Waldham. Should have gotten another game before dropping her. Agree with you, Giant. Again, we wish, that wasn't the case, that Alana King probably got at least one more chance. Because, again, that trio of Eccleston, Alana King and Deepti Sharma, that's just too sort of tempting a prospect to not, try and manifest. So fingers crossed we will get to see her. Last question before we move on to the next side, a very valid one at that. Asim asking us, what do you think of Hemlata's form? Considering Gulfat's ongoing discussion, should Gigi still persist with Hemlata? I remember seeing these numbers. I'm forgetting who had tweeted this, but someone had tweeted Hemlata's numbers against off spin. In the last 30 games or last 20 odd games, she averages 2.5 against off spin. An average of 2.5. That's, I mean, how you can't, as a batter of any kind at this level, you cannot average 2.5 against any bowling time. You just cannot, period. Khatam baat. So, Prajakta, where do you stand on Hemlata? And we know there's potential, there's a lot of talent, and no one's denying that. But do you think current form pe maybe someone like a Bharti Fulmali could be given a chance?
See, again, a duck against UP, and I think it was 9 of 11 the previous match also. But I think one of the reasons that she's getting a chance at the playing 11 is obviously because of her inclusion in the WBPL. Yeah, so I think that was one of the reasons she is here. But again, as you mentioned about her stats, we could possibly see a change, but we really don't know about Gujarat. The problem with Gujarat has always been not with their overseas players, is what I think. It's always been the inexperience factors and the inconsistency of the Indian core itself. And with Hemlata experience, I think the team does expect a lot out of her, but she hasn't been able to stand tall. And it's not only the thing that is going around for this season, but also previously, I think she could have contributed much more than what has always been the case for her.
Fair point. That, and Neha again, Hemlata, sure, she'll get that WBBL gig. It's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? WBBL gig मिला क्योंकि WPL में वो बेतमुनी के साथ खेली थी. अभी WPL खेली क्योंकि WBBL में उनको मौका मिला था. But how do you look at this situation right now? Because she's been woefully out of form. But it's not even like Gujarat Giants have too many other options they can explore. Barring say Bharti Fulmali, I can't think of too many domestic batters in their setup who are waiting in the lurks for a chance. So would you persist with her, or do you think it's probably time for someone else to be given a shot at number 3?
I think, yeah, with Thailand Hemlata, she's just been woefully out of form, has just looked out of sorts. I think her dismissal in the last night's game as well, stepping down to go for that extremely ambitious shot just did not work out well. So it was extremely disappointing because I think in our watch along as well, we were talking about her performances in that Bangladesh series. Bangladesh is an extremely difficult place to kind of, play spin. I mean, subcontinent conditions and all of that. She did reasonably well. But then I think even the fact that the Indian team management has been doing a lot of, like musical chairs here and there, her opportunities have been far and few. Then the injury and all of that concern is also looming. But in domestic, whatever little we have seen, yes, she tends to, start off conservatively and then, press that accelerator and just get going. But so far, yeah, I think as we were talking off record as well, probably giving someone like a Bharti Fulmali an opportunity would merit a case, or even getting someone like a Simran Sheikh, up top would make sense. Harleen Deol at number 7 is just crazy, so probably bringing her also at number 3 would kind of make sense. Because Simran Sheikh, when she plays for Mumbai, does kind of bat somewhere in that at number 4, right? So probably that could be considered. As much as heart goes out to Hemlata because she's going through this rough patch. But again, from the best interest of Gujarat, they would probably have to take this move and see how it kind of works out for them.
I mean, speaking of moves, Deepti Sharma here has promoted herself. She's batting at number 3 tonight. An interesting move with that. Brinda Dinesh being dismissed, first wicket for Delhi Capitals. Before we go ahead, I have to ask good to great here. Neha, please speak out. I want to hear from you as well. Good to great भाई, हमने ऐसा क्या कर दिया? You make it sound as if हम उसको मतलब ऐसा उसके मुंह पे पट्टी लगा के बैठे. I mean, come on. But of course, fair enough. Agree with you, Neha. Always adds a lot of value. So good to see you have fans as well, of course, like always. Folks, which bowler do you think would end up as a bowler of the tourney in WPL? And how many wickets approximately would you expect her to finish with? Oof. मतलब फिलहाल तो सिर्फ 5 games हुए. This is the 6th game right now going on. A very tricky question to answer, but I'm just manifesting this. I'm hoping it'll be Renuka Singh Thakur, and I hope, thank God, I have agreement here. Same, okay. And I'm hoping 8 plus 5 नहीं 8 फर्स्ट पे पहुंचेंगे हम लोग, तो सिर्फ फाइनल खेलेंगे 9 गेम. देखो ऐसे मैनिफेस्ट करो, 9 गेम आरसीबी खेलेगी, 2 गेम की औसत से चलो 18, 2 बोनस, 20 विकेट. गुड टू ग्रेट 20 विकेट्स. फर्स्ट बॉलर इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ WPL, रेणुका सिंह ठाकुर. पहले दोनों सीजन का सबका पूरा वसूल के जाएगी ये 3rd सीजन में. So that's the big prediction I'm going ahead with. Guys, what are your thoughts? Any name that comes to your mind?
I would go just with you, Renuka. I think she's the best bet.
Chalo, okay, fingers crossed for that. Neha, thoughts? Any bowler you have in mind?
Staying true to my RCB, roots and fandom, I'm not going to say Renuka because I don't want to jinx it. And Vadodara, she has always spoken about, being such a great surface, gives her the best possible outcome. So I don't want to kind of, have that happen. Agree with Tejas here. I'd love to see someone like a Priya Mishra, be amongst those wickets, because I think she's bowled beautifully. Akshay was raving about the googlies and all of that and the kind of variation she was bringing in. She's looking in pristine touch, like ऐसे बोलते हैं ना, she's perfect for that ODI World Cup as well. Kind of makes her presence felt. That so for me, she's definitely going to be one to watch out for. So yeah, I would be very happy if it's Renuka, but Priya say thoda, like soft corner and don't want to jinx it with RCB. So yeah.
I mean, pristine touch ki baat karo. By the way, Kiran Navgire, another boundary, brings up her 50, her second 50 in WPL, 24 ball 50. Fantastic knock so far, completely blown away the DC bowlers here. But of course, coming back to our chat, last question, bol ke main abhi teesra question le raha hu, but again, you guys have always come up with the best of questions. It's hard to ignore them. Neha brings up Simran Sheikh. Do you think she would take some accountability when she gives away her wicket when Gujarat had a lot of overs left to bat in the match against Mumbai Indians? Neha, since you brought up Simran Sheikh, let's probably start off with you. What did you make of the fact that she did not really hold on to a wicket and just gave it away?
I think in this case, Simran Sheikh is coming from the domestic side of things and doesn't come in with that sort of match awareness and experience. So her game, when you kind of look at, is go big or go home sort of thing. The big attacking battle that Gujarat did want to kind of attract in their tribe. At least that's what Michael Klinger did talk. But it's just one of those games where it didn't really come through. And I hope people don't reference her UP Warriors performances from the past and to kind of latch on to that. This is a fresh start for her. So she's the kind of batter who will be aggressive. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But again, I'm hoping that she has a more consistent run and is accountable for her wicket as well, because Gujarat again probably will, kind of enforce that change. Laura Wolfart might, be taken off, and we might see a slight shuffle in that batting order as well. So I hope, wherever she gets her position, she's able to put some value to that wicket. But again, this is just a one-off situation, so I'm probably not reading into it too much, and will make my deduction when there's probably more sample size here.
ठीक है, sample size का wait करते हैं यहाँ पे, but of course let's talk about now the next team currently placed number 2 in the points table, season 1 champions Mumbai Indians. 2 games so far, 1-1, lost 1. They lost the game against Delhi Capitals by a very thin margin, but yesterday of course they did crush Gujarat Giants to ensure they grabbed their first couple of points. Prajakta, let's start with you over here. So far, how do you think of Mumbai Indians and the way they're shaping up, and why do you think are they so hell-bent on not using any of their domestic players?
See, before I come to the domestic, I think there's one duo that I would like to mention about Haley Matthews and Natsuki Brunt. I think they are the perfect twos for the Mumbai Indians. I think they've benefited massively because of the all-round brilliance of both of these girls. Their ability to contribute both with the bat as well as the ball has been and it just has been unmatched flexibility for Mumbai Indians as a team, and with the partnerships that have been instrumental in the key moments, making MI a formidable force once again. So I just think, I mean, coming back to the question again, with them being hell bent, not introducing their, the maybe even the younger Indian players that they have, because they did quite a good job when it came to the auctions, and I really thought we'll be seeing some new faces, because Mumbai has always been known for a team, even in the IPL and the WPL, a good scouting team. They've been tagged that, and no doubts about it, they have done quite a fair job. They've given a lot to Indian cricket. So yeah, but it's been quite surprising. But again, only 2 matches, so maybe from the next match, because it hasn't been going their way as well. I mean, it's 1-1, so we can see the Indian crop coming in probably from the third or the fourth match, especially shifting to Bangalore. I think familiar conditions for a lot of Indian players as well. So I think they will bring in the crop at that time.
Interesting points mentioned. That Neha, again, we speak about their their sort of lack of reliance on the domestic players. A lot of it has to do with the fact that, like Prajakta said, Haley Matthews, Nat Silverbrand, I'll add Amelia Kerr there. Like the fact that these three names alone, 4 over to fix है उनका, बैटिंग में भी 20-30 बॉल खेल लेते हैं. So it's almost a case of these three players doing bulk of the damage, resulting in others not getting enough game time. But do you think a strategy like this is going to be successful in the long term? Sure, एक season आप जीत गए, but do you think this is a sustainable strategy in the long term?
Yeah, Akshay, I think in the long term, it is definitely going to come to bite them because, again, the overseas players, these marquee players are human, right? They will have off days. They will have days when they're not performing or they don't have support at all from the other end. You just can't expect them to single handedly, pull Mumbai out of trouble. So that's when, things will get really complicated. And that's where, probably a rethink in their strategy of using their Indian crop of players will definitely help them, right? I know Yasika Bhatia has been out of form. Harman does, her cameos and everything. Amanjot, I think, did well, in last night's encounter and all of that. But what about the other bowlers, right? Like Parnika Sisodia was given her debut last night. I mean, she bowled those 2 overs, went for 20 runs. But I hope it's again not a case of them, dropping her in the next match because what signal are you giving, right, to that youngster? I think last season we were again extremely happy about Keertana Balakrishnan, the kind of progress she had made in domestic, being picked by Mumbai. We were hoping she would get opportunities, but clearly that wasn't the case. This time around, with the acquisition of Akshita Maheshwari, Sanskriti Gupta, like these two were already in my playing 11 when I had kind of conceptualized, but things happened and it didn't play out in, the way that I had thought of. But it's just not giving Sanskriti Gupta opportunities, which is just bizarre, man. Matlab, is she a specialist fielder? Like, what is happening here? So that has been a very confusing strategy and something Mumbai really needs to rethink, because I understand from a franchise point of view and from your fans' POV, you want to win every match. You want to, have your overseas players deliver every single time. But when the gas runs out of, the overseas players or they are like burnt out, what next? I think those are some scary realities which probably Mumbai will be, forced to contend with going ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, even yesterday, when the game pretty much seemed in the bag, they could have very easily sent Kamalini over, someone like an Amelia Kerr. The fact that they still chose to promote, promote as in send Amelia Kerr, and same has been the case even in the previous seasons. I remember time and time again when the game seems buried, ज़्यादा कुछ tension की बात नहीं है, फिर भी they'll stick to going to their first choice options, be it with the ball, be it with the bat, and that's where the question arises. We all remember sort of laughing at Mumbai Indians for not using the likes of Jintimani Kalita, Humaira Kazi in the past, Sanskriti Gupta this time around. मतलब एक वो specialist fielder तो रखते ही हैं, बस नाम बदलता रहता है. इस बार Sanskriti Gupta seems to have bitten the bait because again, great spinner. I was so looking forward to watching her bowl. We all remember how well she did in the Senior Women's One Day Trophy, T20 Trophy, Challenger Trophy even. But the fact that एक ओवर भी नहीं दिया यार, एक तुम 2 मैच में एक ओवर नहीं दे सकते तो फिर कुछ तो गलत करो मेरे हिसाब से. अगेन आई माइट बी रॉन्ग एंड आई अंडरस्टैंड इट ठेका लेके नहीं रखा है उन्होंने कि उनको सिर्फ डोमेस्टिक प्लेयर्स को बढ़ावा देना है. इट्स आल्सो देयर ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू फर्स्ट विन द टूर्नामेंट, नॉट नेसेसरली ग्रो. मतलब दैट इज आल्सो समथिंग दे लुक एट. बट अगर दोनों में से एक पे फोकस करना है वो हमेशा टूर्नामेंट जीतने पे ही फोकस करेंगे, व्हिच इज फेयर. बट you need to understand that kuch to kahin pe it has to match, right? Because when your overseas pros do not perform, almost always they've ended up losing the game. Because barring say a Harmanpreet Kaur and Saika Ashak in the first 4 games of WPL 2023, no Indian has really stood out for them. Not even Pooja Vastrkar, not even Yastika Bhatia for that matter. So agar aap itna depend karoge, then I don't know. Again, in the long term, is it sustainable enough? That's a question they will have to answer for themselves. So, ठीक है, so far so good for them. And Alia Meghra has been stumped out. So, देखते हैं क्या होता है वहाँ पे. Let's take a few questions. Good to great. We see your question about. We see this one. We'll definitely take it up in a bit of time. थोड़ा Mumbai Indians का अपन ले लेते हैं उससे पहले. Asim also asking us, will Saika and Parunika be playing musical chairs this season? Do they deserve this treatment? Wonder how Harmanpreet would feel if she got the same in and out treatment. Guys, what do you make of it? I, for one, think fair decision has been made. Saika has been sent out and Parunika has been brought in. Do you think Parunika will be given a long enough rope Prajakta over here, or do you think फिर से वो musical chairs वाला scene हो सकता है, like Asim mentions?
No, I think Mumbai Indians is quite okay. If the results are coming, you are in. If it is not coming, you are out. So I don't think any of the players are going to get a long rope. It's for one match. You either perform, you stay in the team. Otherwise, you're going out.
Wow, that was a bit too straightforward. Even I was slightly taken aback. But do you agree with that then? When you say something like this, कि Mumbai Indians ऐसे ही है, do you agree with the way they operate then?
See, with some teams it does work out a lot well, because for it's about one match. You either win it or you either lose it, and if you're winning it, there's nothing like it. Now, if the wins are going to continue and if it's going to be consistent enough, is obviously for us to see for the later bit. However, I would not believe in that. I would believe you play the same 11 at least for at least for 2 games or 3 games in a row, and maybe if things are not working out, then it's time you drop a player. But one game out, 1 game in, it breaks the momentum of the entire team.
Completely agree with you there. I mean, it is important थोड़ा consistency दिखाओ. But the fact that जो domestic players हैं उनको उतना मौका ही नहीं मिलता, so it's almost like it's a 4-member team. बाकी 7 player हैं just to make up the numbers. So because of which it hardly makes a difference कि कौन खेला, and that's the sad part. Samit also going on to say, I think taking risks with young domestic players does not sit right with some teams. Shraddha and Simran last year, and many players in MI playing like specialist fielders. Shraddha and Simran, I'm guessing he's referring to RCB. Shraddha poker कर लेकिन bowling तो की ना है. मतलब I don't think she was ever a specialist fielder. And even with Simran Dil Bahadur, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that they were being deployed as specialist fielders. But fair, your opinion, I mean, fair point that it is not right. I mean, it's important कि आप जिनको खेल रहे हो कम से कम जिस रोल पे उनको लिया है, at least वो रोल तो कर ले. नहीं तो फायदा क्या हुआ? Like if संस्कृति गुप्ता is supposed to be a very good off spinner, एक ओवर तो देख लो ना कि मतलब अच्छी है बुरी है. At least you'll get some understanding कि गेम टाइम में मतलब when given some actual match practice, is she good enough or not? अगर आप मौका ही नहीं दोगे तो पता नहीं चलेगा. फिर एलिमिनेटर या फाइनल में हेली मैथ्यूज एक दो छक्के खा लेगी, फिर आप संस्कृति गुप्ता को अचानक से एक ओवर दे दोगे, फिर वो अच्छी नहीं करेगी, फिर आप गलिया होगे कि हाँ देखा इसीलिए डोमेस्टिक प्लेयर्स पे इनको भरोसा नहीं है. So it's again it's a very vicious cycle. So it's important that they understand that and they try to solve for it. So ठीक है. 16 overs from MI are bowled by their overseas. Of course, this is something we've spoken about during our watch along as well. Shabnam Ismail, Amelia Kurt, Nat Silverbrand, Hayley Matthews. 16 ओवर तो आपके पक्के हैं, फिक्स है. तो बचे 4 में से आप एक 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 करके मतलब ऐसे प्रसाद जैसे बांटते वैसे बांटते कि हाँ आप ले लो, आप एक कर लो, आप एक कर लो. So it is definitely difficult. तो ठीक है देखते हैं. So far it's sort of worked for them. They did end up one season as champions. They at least finished third in the second, so they might be they might be sticking to it. So let's see if it works for them this third time as well. One more team to go, of course. It is the defending champions. I love the ring that has to it. RCB, defending champions of the WPL, of course, now firmly seated at number 1. 2 wins in their first couple of games. I've already made no bones about the fact that I expect nahi kar raha tha. Neha has also spoken about it during our watch-alongs as well. Prajakta, let's start with you. Given all the injuries that were going to plague RCB this season, 5 injuries the 4 first 11 se the. Did you see a performance like this coming from them?
Honestly, no. And especially in the first game when they got trashed for 200 runs, I really thought that the game was out of hands. And I think the defending champions might have gotten the worst start ever. But with the way Perry and obviously Richa Ghosh, these guys just anchored, I would say, through and through, and chasing 200 in the very first game, they actually acted and felt like defending champions themselves. So kudos goes out to them. But then again, the Indian core and the back, I think, is the backbone of success, because see, Smriti Mandana in the last game, Richa Ghosh in the first game, again in the second game, and Renuka Singh Thakur, like, not to forget her. But these three guys have really, at least the Indian core of RCB have played well through and through. And I think they, however, they do rely on their overseas players as well, especially with Daniel Watt coming in, and also Perry. She has to be there when RCB and Perry, I think they go just in one line. So I think they've played quite well so far. Like 2 of 2 is brilliant, and again, the one positive that they have is they're going to Bangalore again. So one can just hope that they continue with the same thing.
I mean, that's such a valid point, right, Neha? Domestic core, when your domestic core performs, you almost always end up winning games. You don't have to depend on, your overseas pros and all of that. One name we cannot look past is Renuka Singh Thakur. A lot had been made of the first couple of seasons, and rightfully so. Even I've been one amongst them who did feel कि यार मतलब अब 2 season में सिर्फ 3 wicket लिए हो यार. Like that's just hardly, becoming of someone who is a Team India regular, someone who's supposed to be Team India spearhead. And the way she started so far, 5 wickets or 4 wickets in the first couple of games, a 3 for in her last game, her first ever 3 for that was in WPL. The way she's performed, add the likes of Kanika Ahuja to that, and even to a lesser extent, Ragvi Bisht, Ekta Bisht, and of course, I'm forgetting Joshita. But Renuka Singh Thakur, like that player, her performing, how important it is for RCB, given especially the number of injuries going around in the side.
Absolutely. I think her role is of paramount importance, right? I mean, she is your pace spearhead. You need her to, kind of deliver wickets up front. Just looking at RCB's pattern across 2023 and 2024, Renuka Singh Thakur was bowling from one and just absolutely getting smashed. You had no support from the other end. It just became a recurring cycle of, watching this pace bowling getting smashed all around the park. But great to see her, kind of turn a leaf. The RCB management, entrusting her to kind of do her job and not drop her, yeah, because she plays so regularly for India, does reasonably well. But as Akshay always says, no, RCB jersey pehn ke kuch aur hi ho jata hai. Kind of just proven all of us wrong, right? Then you have such a strong batting lineup, you need your bowling to deliver. And I think Renuka has clearly led from the front in that regard. Would have loved to see Joshita also, kind of have a similar impact. But again, guys, she's just 19. And to, kind of expect her to, just come in and deliver the goods is a lot to ask for. This exposure will do her a world of good. But Renuka being in good form, augurs well for RCB. And RCB does look like, one of the teams that has a lot of their players stepping up when needed. And the unit just seems to be gelling well. Every match you have some new player who's coming up and delivering. I know people will come at me with, Smriti Madana got out to off spin in the first match. Danny White didn't score that many runs, and Ellyse Perry is, that linchpin number 3 who's doing the bulk of the job. But you also have someone like Richa who's coming and delivering. You had Kanika do that magic, in the first match as well. So every single time you have someone else, kind of raise their hand and deliver the goods, I think RCB will definitely not complain. And this is an injury-riddled RCB we are talking about, right? So I think they would take a lot of heart from their performances so far, and hopefully not jinx it for themselves as they head to the Bengaluru leg. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, agree with all those points. In fact, what's been extremely heartwarming for me as an RCB fan isn't the wins per se. It's the fact that they found different match winners at different points in time. You've seen performances coming from different players. It's not been 1 or 2 players they've depended on. Like I mentioned at least 5 Indian names. I can add Georgia Wadham's 3 for to that. I can add Danny Ba's opening partnership to that. Ellyse Perry, of course, goes without saying. Who is the 4th overseas player? Kim Garth, again, the opening spell against Delhi Capitals. So it is looking like a very cohesive unit, and that's what's been extremely satisfying to watch. But I've had just one sort of bone to pick with them. Again, it's more of me sort of nitpicking over here, and Pratap Singh right on cue bringing that same point up. What do you guys think about Smriti using Joshita in the middle overs? That was probably my only sort of क्या कि मतलब ये न्यू बॉल बॉलर है ये तो पता ही है but then you also have Kim Garth and Renuka Singh Thakur, so it is a conundrum. Prajakta, how do you look at that? Do you think it's fair on Smriti? She's at least bringing her in at first change. Yeah, do you think she can probably bring Joshita up top to partner with Renuka Singh Thakur, and someone like the experienced Kim Garth can bowl later on?
See, probably in the Bangalore leg, she can try that, and maybe then Kim Garth can move towards the middle, towards the middle overs. But I think, right, I mean, till now they fared quite good, and Smriti, as far as I know, wouldn't want those kind of changes, especially as you mentioned, why change things that are not broken at all. So I don't think they'll touch upon that very soon, but maybe somewhere when it's required, we may see that change.
Fair enough. And Neha, also thoughts on Smriti, the leader. Yeah, like before we get to Smriti herself, I don't know if I can call it reliance or camaraderie, but Ellyse Perry is almost like the non-captain captain of RCB. Like I've lost count of how many times I've seen Smriti and Ellyse just having conversations. Ellyse almost setting the field, and I went back and watched the full 4-hour replay of the first game. After the game, everyone celebrated. Smriti's gone and hugged Richa, gone and hugged Kanika. Then there was this 30-second bit where she was talking to Ellyse Perry. Jitna main lip read kar paya, again, not an expert at it, I could evidently see her telling Renuka, Kim Garth, Joshita, Prema, ऐसा वो कुछ तो bowling changes ये सब के बारे में बात कर रहे थे. So she's clearly someone, Smriti looks up to, Ellyse Perry, that is. How important do you think has that itself played? Like, let alone Smriti's captaincy, the fact that she's had a leader in Ellyse Perry to help her out, to guide her in difficult situations. How big a role do you think that's also played?
That's obviously played a massive role, as rightly pointed by you. And I think in a lot of interviews that Smriti has given, that Ellyse Perry is a part of that leadership group as well, gives a sense of direction, gives, a lot of advice to Smriti on the field, because Smriti is again a relatively young captain. She's finding her feet. You're leading a team like RCB, which comes in with not just weight of expectations, but like the burden of expectations, because you have fans on one end, and any stadium you go, there is this proper RCB support in that regard. And having someone like an Ellyse Perry, just like kind of share all your ideas with and just get advice from her is imperative and massive. I think in one of our comments up top also someone mentioned about the smerry edits and all of that. Like, fans are having an absolute go at it with, kind of just shipping them together and all of that. I mean, yeah, that's an entirely different topic, but the kind of synergy that the two of them have, I mean, both of them are senior players. They really trust each other and really value what insights they bring, right? I think that is a very pleasant sign and will augur well for RCB, because we have the mega auctions coming in next. And if they can kind of figure out, the kind of core they want to retain, yeah, Akshay wiping his tears off, because that means a lot of RCB is going to change. But with this guiding force being there, I think RCB would still be in safe hands, and a lot of the tactical and on-field decisions also, right? You can see how much of a role Ellyse Perry plays. So fingers crossed they can kind of keep this sort of a partnership ongoing, and it does well for RCB.
I just hope कुछ ऐसा rule बन जाए कि season 2 winners के लिए खास exemption, आप hard player retain करो, बाकी सब 2-3 retain करो, because I'll be heartbroken to see some of these names go and play. Like, I don't want to let go of Smriti, I don't want to let go of Ellyse, I don't want to let go of Shriyanka, I don't want to let go of Richa, I don't want to let go of Warren. कोई है ही नहीं जिसको मैं मतलब हाँ ठीक है कोई नहीं एक मतलब दिल पे पत्थर रख के छोड़ सकता हूँ, ऐसा कोई है ही नहीं. I want everyone there. Like, again, kudos to RCB for building a fantastic core, and I just hope that we get to see them play together a lot more. But anyways, that aside, quite a few questions coming our way. We'll take these before we move on to the next part of our conversation. Guys, no question on RCB. They're playing like a champion side. But what are your expectations from Shweta Sehrawat in the middle order? It's been 3 seasons now. I think she is an opener in domestic cricket. Neha, we did speak about Shweta last time around. She's right now in the middle for the weight so far. What do you think? Where is Shweta Sehrawat at right now? And do you think it is time for her also now to sort of shine and do well at a tournament like the WPL?
See, Akshay, I'll be honest with you. I think she's really playing out of position. When she plays for Delhi, she is, their opener. So to kind of expect her to come in and play at like 6, 7 is just, impossible. And I really think that's a lot of expectations they're putting on a young player like her. Because when you have players like Poonam Khemra who are regular customers at that position, might as well use them, right? I think Shweta Sehrawat is being not utilized in the right position. But again, just looking at UP Warriors and their top order, like where do we put her, right? If she's opening with Vrinda, then it becomes a right combination. I mean, not that it's not a right combination with Kiran and Vrinda. So does she come in at number 3? But again, just playing a player out of position is not good for them, especially when they're just starting off. I know flexibility is a thing, but then number 6 and 7 in T20s is a very specialized role. You have to be a finisher, which means more often than not, you will, have a lot of failures than, those successful knocks. And Shweta hasn't given me that impression that, she is ideal for number 7. Would love to see her open, but where they make that entry for her in the opening slot is honestly beyond me.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy for them. देखते हैं फिलहाल जहाँ पे मौका मिल रहा है consistently कम से कम वहाँ पे कुछ कर पाए तो maybe that could warrant a promotion. Another question, let me throw this to Prajakta. A scene going on to ask, should Joshita be trained to bowl at the death and given a chance, or should she be pigeonholed into a power play bowler? Isn't it the coach's responsibility to tap into the potential of young players? Prajakta, where do you stand over here? Because Joshita has clearly been a new ball bowler. Under 19 World Cup में भी देखा था, Under 19 Asia Cup में भी देखा था. Do you think then that RCB, given where their requirement is, उनको new ball के साथ कुछ नहीं चाहिए, उनको death में चाहिए, should they then try and mold Joshita into a death bowler, or should they try and just leverage her strengths and try and use her in the power play?
See, with the current lineup that they have, I really think that she needs to be trained somewhere to bowl in the death, because that will be required in the later stage of the tournament, and also with the decks that will be given to us in Chinnaswamy. It will not be the same as a Vadodara, or then Lucknow will be a totally different ball game because their spin works and it will be low scoring decks. So I still think with if time permits, obviously Joshita should be trained to be bowled in the death rather than just being pigeonholed into the power play slot.
चलो देखते हैं how does RCB and Luke Williams look at this. Meanwhile, Tej is also saying last year there was almost completely Perry doing the field setting and captaincy. This year I'm seeing more of Smithy, not going to lie. Perry still helps, saw her setting the field. Of course, that's a fair observation there, Tejas. So I mean, that's how it works, right? This is exactly why a tournament like WPL works and is necessary. There is knowledge transfer that's happening when Smriti rubs shoulders with someone like an Ellyse Perry. She, as a leader, also gets to learn so much from her. And then later on in the future, if and when she becomes Team India skipper, she can then put that to good use and help Team India. So that's essentially why these leagues are necessary. And fingers crossed, we get to see a lot more of that in the future as well. Done with each of the 5 teams. Now it's time for us to talk about some of the top performers we've seen so far. 5 नाम तो हमने निकाले हैं भाई. I know it was मतलब slightly difficult because there were so many performances, but ठीक है, जिनका हम ले पाए उनका हमने लिया. So we will start off and probably try and be a bit brief with this. There we go. Let's start off with, of course, the RCB skipper Smriti Mandhana. अभी बात किया था उनके बारे में. A 47 ball 81 against Delhi Capitals, a much needed knock there for Smriti, a much needed knock for RCB. Neha, thoughts on the knock and how important it was in the context of RCB's situation?
Yeah, I think this was one of those knocks, you would definitely want to watch on loop and repeat, right? They're playing against Delhi Capitals. We know the head-to-head with RCB and Delhi is not that great. But Smriti Mandhana absolutely playing a skipper's knock, right? Scoring those 81 of just 47 balls. Look at the boundaries, right? She got like 10 fours and 3 sixes. The way she was also able to, get those singles. She got almost like 19 singles in that knock, if I remember. So you could constantly see there's an intent, score runs and do the right kind of thing. Biggest, I think, characteristic of that knock was the partnership with Danny Wyatt-Hurst, which was the need of the hour. I think we've spoken so much in our preview segment about, the Southern Brave connection and all of that. Glad to see that, kind of play out. This is Smriti's also highest WPL score, highest, partnership with Danny Wyatt, versus Delhi. So a lot of firsts were achieved in that innings, but the way she, kind of constructed the knock, that was like a big, big takeaway and had to make it, to this list of top performers. Hopefully she can be WPL's first centurion as well, being a little greedy here. But I think this knock, has given her a world of confidence, and I'm confident that she will only get better.
Yeah, she will definitely only get better from here. And Shweta Sehrawat also seems to be getting better over here. A couple of boundaries against Annabelle Sutherland. A fantastic pull shot that. More of a swivel pull in front of square. But of course, coming back to the top performers, next up, of course, the young wrist spinner Priya Mishra. 3 for 25 in 4 overs in that game against UP Warriors. That included the big names of Talia Migra, Grace Harris, Deepti Sharma. Important spell, not just from a Gujarat Giants perspective, but also from a Team India perspective. We've been speaking about the lack of wrist spinners for Team India. That was as good a spell as we've seen in the WPL so far.
So some of the key talking points, I think she's very crucial in the middle over, and the impact that she's had with turning the game in the team's favor and applying the pressure, especially at the critical phase of the game. And then taming the power hitters, obviously, is not one of the easiest jobs when it comes to cricket. But, with Tyla Magra and Grace Harris, with dangerous batters at the crease, I think she's quite disciplined, bowling disrupted and completely disrupted their momentum. And then, as you mentioned, the previous point, outstanding googly, something that we cannot miss out on. I think it was exceptional, deceiving the batters with sharp turn and the kind of control that she has. Watching an Indian spinner boss over, especially these Australian powerhouses, was quite a sight to behold. And then again, the match winning influence that she has and that she has been bringing in a game where containing runs was as important as taking wickets. I think her ability to execute under pressure has been proved as a decisive factor.
And do you think a spell like that has all but sealed her spot in Team India as well? ODI setup, World Cup year, as sub hai. Do you think this spell will go a long way in ensuring her selection in the 11 as well?
Yes, 100%, because she's been quite economical. Wicket taking ability she has. She's ensured that her team doesn't usually cross the 150 mark in T20 cricket. I think all of it has just seemed to surpass the expectations, obviously, that people might have had of her. And I think she's fared quite brilliantly till now. And fingers crossed she just continues with this.
Yep, fingers crossed for sure there. Priya Mishra, gun, wrist spinner, fantastic spell. Hopefully, the first of many such spells in this WPL. Coming back, of course, हमने Priya Mishra की बात की. We'll also have to talk about her skipper, Ashley Gardner. To be honest, two fantastic all-round performances. Although this one resulting in a win, which is why we selected this. 2 for 39 in her 4 overs and a fantastic 50 to cap it off while chasing the total as well. And make no mistake, it wasn't as easy a target or chase as one might think. We all know that Beth Mooney, Laura Wolfhard both had been dismissed early on. Sorry, Beth Mooney and Hemlata both had been dismissed early on. They were 2 for 2 after 1.3, 1.4 overs. From there, for her to counter attack the way she did, she attacked the likes of Alana King, Deepti Sharma, two fantastic spinners in their own right. Just goes down to show the kind of talent we're talking about, the kind of experience we're talking about, and which is what makes her such a global superstar. Like, she was in fact the most expensive overseas player, the joint most expensive overseas player. गुजरात भाई ने इतना मतलब गुजरात भाई ने अडानी भाई ने इतना पैसा इसीलिए तो दिया है भाई ताकि परफॉर्मेंस मिल सके ताकि ये मैचेस अच्छे से जिता सके एंड अगेन match winning performance that even against RCB, fantastic 50, 70 odd, and then took the important wickets of Smriti Mandana and Danny White. Overall, she's had a fantastic start to the tournament. Yesterday was probably an aberration. At least that's what the GG think tank would be hoping, because a start like this, and they would want her to capitalize this and convert these into wins. There's no point of these performances if they're not being able to get points on the table or wins under the belt. But all in all, fantastic performance from her, especially the way she bowled to Smriti. Again, we always talk about Smriti versus off spin. I'll probably say it's more of a Smriti versus Gardner matchup that she struggles against, and not Smriti versus off spin. We spoke about this during our watch alongs as well. With Gardner, first of all, she's smart. She's a very, very smart bowler. She's a thinking bowler. And that's what makes her so much more better and so much more lethal. The way she sort of darted in quick against Smriti, bowled it from an angle around the wicket, that made it even more uncomfortable for Smriti Mandana. Like, even in the post-match presentation, Smriti spoke about how she wasn't disappointed that she got out. She was disappointed that that was a ball that was there to be hit. But because it's someone like an Ashley bowling with that uncomfortable angle, she has those unique variations to her. She has the ability to drift it, and she has that ability to bowl those stop deliveries, arm balls. And yeah, it's just great to watch when she is in full flow. So Gujarat will be hoping to see a lot more of her going forward. So देखते हैं वहां पे क्या होता है. So that was that from Ashley Gardner's knock. Next up, of course, Shefali Verma, fantastic 43 of 18 against Mumbai Indians. Arguably the player of the match, winning performance there. Unfortunately, it was given to the youngster Nikki Prasad. But Neha, thoughts on the way she also performed? We know what kind of pressure Shefali Verma is under, given her axing from the Team India squad, and this WPL arguably being her sort of jumping boat to make it back into the Indian setup. A knock like this is exactly what we've come to expect of her.
Yeah, I think Shefali Verma really made a statement with this sort of a knock and performance, right? Because when you're under pressure, a lot of players tend to kind of go into the shell or play a very conservative brand of cricket. Play that 40 ball 60 and all of that. But this is Shefali Verma who's played this 43 runs in just 18 balls, right? She was looking at her attacking best, kind of carried on, that vein of form from the domestics as well, where she kind of just put her head down, worked hard on her game, worked hard on her fitness, and then stayed true to her attacking brand of cricket. I mean, albeit in this case, it didn't come, where she could stay till the end and lead her team to a win, but it kind of set a platform, right? Just look at the way she was playing the sweep shot. She got almost like 14 runs off it. Like, I was just again watching her knock, and that was a very pleasant sign. Again, Shefali is not someone who takes a lot of singles, much to Meg Ladding's dismay. But then as long as she's doing her job, from one end, attacking the bowlers, making the most of the power plays, I would still take innings like this from Shefali, and ensure that she continues playing like this, and at least keep her in contention for the T20 side of things for India. So it's not like this that kind of gives me the confidence that she still has it in her to kind of be that X factor for India up top, rather than the very conservative approaches we've been taking in the past. So yeah, all in all, very happy with that knock, and hope to see a lot more of this from her, and no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah, no complaints for sure. And fingers crossed, we will get to see a lot more of these knocks because she'll need a lot more of such knocks to make it back into the Indian team, who is currently scheduled to play against England in June. That's their next assignment. So, uske liye agar jagah banani hai, to a fantastic WPL would be a great way of putting your hat in the ring. Last name, of course, last and definitely not the least, Richa Ghosh, a fantastic unbeaten 64 off 27 balls in the tournament opener. Prajakta, you earlier spoke about how after the first innings you thought this game was done and dusted. Clearly, Richa Ghosh had other thoughts.
I think she's been a standout performer across WPL seasons and one of the most impactful players in the Women's Premier League as well, delivering match winning performances with a fearless approach. And that fearless approach is something that makes Richa Ghosh the Richa Ghosh. And, especially the run chases, I think she's quite an asset, and shifting the momentum completely in the team's favor has been uh, you know, one of her key points that she does. And apart from, when I come to her key highlight points, it's always been the kind of the match winner that she is. Even after you see the first game, she spoke in the presentation saying that, we wanted to take a game deep, and we just had that kind of belief in our team that we could do it. Obviously that belief had to be in herself, because she was at the crease down there, and to chase something that is, anywhere around 200 with 1 over to spare. I mean, I think with 1 over to spare was quite commendable. And also, she's been a historic chase contributor. Even last time, although the RCB didn't really make it against the game versus Delhi and the heartbreaking run out, but I still think she's been quite an historic chase contributor. And the stroke play that she has dominates the short deliveries, punishing the bowlers with quite ease and effortlessness. And also, one thing, the wicket keeping power is asset that she here, and also keeping behind. I think she's quite the complete player that RCB wanted, and she has proved to be one for them, and quite reliable behind the stumps, and then adding depth to the team squad. All in all, a complete player.
Yeah, I mean, definitely someone who exudes maturity far beyond her age. लगता नहीं कि सिर्फ 20-21 साल की है. And some of the shots, especially the ones that she plays behind square, the cheeky little late cuts and the slices and all of it. The ones against Ashley Gardner comes to mind, where she mobbed over 23 runs in an over. The ease with which he was toying with Ashley Gardner, you could see Ashley also had a rise. She's like, I can't, like, again, as a bowler, you bowl good. Uske baad the batter reacts, and if a batter is good enough, then you just have to doff your hat and move on. I was one of those days. I don't think Ashley Gardner was bowling too bad. Richa Ghosh was just on top of a game, and we've heard the likes of Ellyse and Sophie Devine sing high praises of her, of how she is definitely going to be a world beater in the future. So yeah, definitely a complete package already, and hopefully we'll get to see some of those fantastic chases once again, yet again, going forward into the tournament as well. Let's just take this one comment or rather couple of comments before we move on. Apologies there. Shivam Patil going on to ask, is Kamalini a good option for MI, as Jintimani Kalita does not bat or bowl? Neha, again, how do you look at this? Because at the end of the day, आपको तो specialist fielder ही चाहिए. So Kamalini को ही आप खिला सकते हो specialist fielder के तौर पे.
Absolutely. I mean, last match as well. I mean, last night's encounter, she came in, started her WPL career with a 4. Guys, this is just a 16-year-old who's, already producing magic. I'm not trying to jump the gun, but she's definitely a good option for Mumbai Indians. I mean, the way they kind of, went after her in the auction, 1.6 crore, they clearly see talent in this. They see her, being in that pipeline, being in the scheme of things, going ahead as well. And considering they might not want to tinker with that opening combination, bring her in later on in that batting order, and I think she can so kind of sort of do that finisher sort of role or give you those cameos as well. Was a tad bit disappointed with her entry point, at least last night. The match was well within control. You're standing her after like Amelia Kerr, Sajna and all of these folks, right? So that was a tad bit disappointing, but I think they should give her the long rope, and we will, kind of see her emerge as that sort of an option for Mumbai.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the downside of, buying or coming up scouting players ahead of the mega auction. I've always been vocal about this कि मेगा ऑक्शन के एक साल पहले आप डोमेस्टिक प्लेयर्स को खरीदो ही मत, क्योंकि there's nothing good that's going to come out of it. Either you don't give the player a chance at all, which means you've just wasted a talent, or you give them a chance. Other teams find out कि यार ये तो कमाल की प्लेयर है, अगले साल ऑक्शन में तो आएगी ये, because even let's say Kamalini goes on to have a blockbuster season in the remaining 4-5 games or 6 games, he scores like 300-400 runs. There's no way on earth Mumbai can retain her. 5 retentions maybe उनको तो अपने 4 overseas player लेने, उनको हरमनप्रीत कौर रखना है. So given all of this, it just, but ठीक है अभी मतलब fair play to Mumbai Indians. They did want to try out someone like a Kamalini was also going to be a backup to Yastika, who herself has been shrouded in a cloud of injury. So, given all of those concerns, fair shout. So, we can see why or where they were coming from, and hopefully we'll get to see a lot more of her. क्योंकि अब तक तो फिलहाल सिर्फ 2 या 3 ही बॉल देखा है, तो अभी भी time है. She's still 16, so there's a lot of game left in her, cricket left in her. Meanwhile, Shubham Patil going on to say, guys, please keep the super chat on. Oh, that's very sweet of you. Thank you so much, Shubham, and आपके लिए super chat paise nahi to yehi say, yeah, there we go, thank God. But of course, coming back, let's just take these comments before we move on to the last segment of this episode. By the way, Richa has never been dismissed in a successful run chase. Oh wow, man. Okay, that's a very interesting stat. Thanks for bringing that up. Tej is also saying one issue that RCB will face is the team structure. Unlike last year, and with Perry not bowling, our top 5 doesn't bowl. So this is where I guess, the likes of Renuka Singh Thakur, Joshua, all of them, and Neeta Bish, all of them doing well is important. Last year, Renuka wasn't in the greatest of form. Shraddha Pokharkar wasn't exactly getting wickets, which is why we had to rely upon Sophia Devine and Ellyse Perry in the first place. So as long as your first choice bowlers are doing well, I don't think this is something they'll be too worried about. But of course, agree with you, that is definitely an issue that they will have to contend with should such a situation arise. Samit, meanwhile, going on to say, Baroda was a win the toss, win the match kind of venue. We'll have to see how the other teams defend on other venues. I mean, for what it's worth, last year, there were 11 games in Bangalore, 11 games in Delhi. Teams chasing won 7 of them in Bangalore, teams chasing won 7 of them in Delhi. So clearly, once again, teams chasing always had the upper hand, but there was at least some parity. 4 गेम तो कम से कम जीते. It wasn't unlike the 100% strike rate से तो नहीं चल रहा था. So देखते हैं, last game बचा है यहाँ पे वडोदरा लीग का. So let's hope if UP Warriors can turn the tide, buck the trend, and win a game over here. So far they haven't done too badly in the first innings. Anyways, we'll save that for later. Time for us, of course, to now talk about some of the numbers and trends we've seen so far in the first week of WPL. Slightly on the number side, this is just me now trying to fulfill my ambition of अरे मेरे को numbers पता है, मैंने engineering किया है, मैंने MBA किया, थोड़ा numbers दिखाते हैं. Jokes apart, of course. Just a few numbers just to try and show what we've seen so far in the tournament. First up, let's just look at this phase-wise distribution and what we've seen. You can just see again. Sorry, we've used acronyms over here, तो थोड़ा आपको tricky लगेगा. PP refers to power play, MO refers to middle overs, and DO refers to death overs. 1I refers to first innings, 2I refers to second innings. So PP 1I means power play first innings, MO 2I means middle over second innings. So I hope that sets some context. I've also explained what the over split looks like. So power play is first 6 overs, over 7 to 16 is middle overs, and 17 to 20, the final 4 overs, has been considered to be the death overs. So if you look at it, power play in the first innings has been so difficult. In fact, that's been the only phase so far जहाँ पे batters have scored under 7 runs per over. This is going on to show that any team that's bowling first in the first 6 overs has almost always wreaked havoc. So it was very good to see UP Warriors do well. In fact, today was the first instance of a team scoring at over 10 runs per over in the power play. But that's not been the case so far in the tournament. A lot of it has to do with the venue and how the surface itself is played. And if you look at the middle overs, almost eerily similar to how season 2 of the WPL was. Run rates of about 8.4, 8.5 in the middle overs across both innings. This is going on to show that that's around the time when we've seen Dew come in. So, over 8 to 10, 11, that's around the time when we've seen you come in, which is when it's become a lot more easier for batters to just, play their strokes. Bowlers aren't getting enough purchase. They're also losing the grip on their balls, bowling a lot more bad deliveries. So stuff like that has just sort of accumulated and helped batters to score runs, which is why middle overs, hands down, has been the easiest phase to score runs. We've seen RCB do well there, Gujarat Giants do well there. Yesterday we saw Mumbai Indians do well there. So that's almost a phase where they consolidated and really accumulated runs big time. Next up, of course, talking about pace versus spin. This probably will also help you answer the question ki why was Alana King left out and why was Chanel Henry picked ahead of her. So far, both pacers and spinners have bowled 94 overs each, but wickets taken, spinners might have taken a few more wickets, just 4 more wickets, but that's come at a cost. And what's that cost? They've conceded runs at over 0.5 runs per over. तो वहां पे वो फर्क दिखाई देता because they've been a lot more expensive, and given how the venue has played, where each run has been important for sides, so that differential alone has probably, warranted a change like this for the UP Warriors, where they must have felt Alana King might be someone who gets me a couple of wickets, but she'll also end up conceding 40-45 runs. If we are going to be defending a 150-160 kind of total, we cannot afford to, concede that many runs in a 4-over spin. So that was probably the direction they were coming in from. Even boundary percentage, they've conceded a lot more boundaries than pacers, than their pace counterparts. Again, things like these is probably what influences decisions. I agree with most of you ki Alana King on paper is probably a lot more, gun compared to, say, a Janelle Henry. But if the surface is aiding pace a bit more, new ball ke saath thoda aur movement mil jata and all of that. So that's where teams are coming from, which is why they make such decisions. Of course, these aren't the only pointers. They would be considering a lot more. This is just us trying to shed a bit more light. And of course, now talking about some of the batting trends we've seen so far, RCB have well and truly cruised over here. Apologies, मतलब थोड़े ज़्यादा polygons दिखाई देंगे आपको. Basically, each team has been represented by 3 points. The first point being power play, the second point being middle overs, and the third point being death overs. If you look at RCB, they've been a cut above the rest across phases. मतलब ऐसा लगता है RCB एक दूसरी ग्रह में और ये सब एक दूसरे से खेल रहे हैं. Almost on a different surface altogether. And this is where a team like UP Warriors has struggled. If you look at it across phases, they haven't been able to score over 8 runs per over. Even at the death, which has been their fastest scoring phase, they've scored at barely 8 runs per over. So that's where, today you can see a very clear change in mindset. This is something they must have discussed, something they must have questioned themselves. You see the way they've performed, boundaries galore. In fact, just now we've seen another 6. That's 3 sixes or 4 balls from Chanel Henry against Shikha Pandey. Just again, the kind of boundary hitting UP Warriors would have wanted to see in the first game. This graph probably explains why they wanted to change it and why they even failed in the first game. Last but not the least, of course, bowling में भी अगर trends की बात करें, in terms of power play bowling, RCB and Delhi Capitals have been the worst bowling sides in the power play. They've hardly been able to pick wickets over there, but they've more than made up for it in the middle, which is what has helped them, get those important breakthroughs. Beat Renuka Singh Thakur, beat Georgia Warrior for RCB, beat someone like a Jess Jonathan or even an Arundhati Reddy. All of them in the middle overs doing well has helped them get those wickets and ensure that they do well across phases. So in a nutshell, this is sort of what we were going for. Thoughts on this, guys, in terms of what we've seen? Neha, let's start off with you. Across phases, we've seen RCB, the batters have genuinely blown apart their opposition so far.
Yeah, definitely great signs, right? Because so far, the matches of RCB that have happened, at least in the first one, we kind of saw the openers not be able to do a lot. Then Ellyse Perry and Raghavi Bisht, kind of anchoring the innings and just, keeping the run chase still alive. Then we saw Richa Ghosh come and do her classic stuff. So that's been a great thing to see. And even the second match, I think the opening partnership with Danny White and, Smriti Mandna really helping the cause with respect to, the run chase. Although they lost a few wickets, that wasn't entirely concerning, but nice to see, you have different batters stepping in at different points and, kind of still keeping the required rate well within control. And great work, Akshay. Kudos on, actually coming up with these numbers and really putting a lot of context and perspective, especially with the Alana King point that you said. I mean, a lot of us are like, ऐसे कैसे उसको drop कर दिया, but I think this point of, how the Pacers have been doing their fair job kind of, merits Chanel Henry's selection, and she's been batting well as well. So yeah, great job on the numbers as well.
बाद में पैसे जीपे करूंगा, टेंशन मत लो. Jokes apart, of course, just one question before we wrap today's episode up. Good to great, of course, asking us another interesting question for you guys. Which batter do you think will smash the first ton of the season? Let's just put it first ton of WPL up to 99-year highest score. He's betting on Gardner or Nat Silverbrand. Prajakta, who do you think who will be the first ever centurion of WPL?
I would go with Nat Skipper because I think with the batting partner that she has, Hayley Matthews coming in, I think she gets a lot of room to play her A game and her natural game. So I think Nat Skipper Brand should be my bet as well.
Okay, interesting. She's gone with some English power there. Neha, who are you going for and why is it the RCB skipper?
Yeah, it has to be Smriti Mandana for me. No doubts about that. Raved enough about it, I think, earlier in the show. And yeah, I think it's really fitting, guys. Matlab, ye hona hi chahiye. I know, like, my fan sentiment is really taking precedence here, and I'm probably going to regret it later. But it's fine. For me, it's going to be Smriti Mandana, and I really hope it's her, kind of getting that first century and etching her name in history books. So yeah.
चलो देखते हैं क्या होता है, and it is of course time for us to end this episode on that positive note. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I know बीच में मैंने उतना CTA नहीं दिया, but all of you folks, please make sure you hit the like button. Please make sure you smash that bloody subscribe button and do us a world of good. We will be back on Friday doing our watch alongs. It's also the beginning of the Bangalore leg. RCB will be taking on Mumbai Indians. A fantastic encounter on cards, and we'll definitely have a lot of fun reacting to it. And thanks a ton, Prajakta, for being a part of it. Thank you so much for sharing your insights as well. Any final thoughts you would want to say about the WPL, about the episode itself?
Oh, I mean, thank you so much for inviting me. But about the WPL overall, I'm quite excited with the way it's going to 4 venues this time around. First venue, Vadodara, has been something out of the. So, I mean, it's come as a surprise, especially with the fan turnout and everything. Bengaluru, I think, will do very well. I mean, the defending champions are going back home, so it should be a full house. Neha already mentioned about the tickets overflowing, already going out of stock, and all of that. I think Lucknow will be a little low key as it has always been with even the IPL, with the other bilateral games, even the Indian men's bilateral games for that matter. And then again finishing off in Mumbai, where the first final had also happened, the first season final. They'll be going back to the same venue again at the Brabant Stadium. So all in all, I think it should be a cracker of a season, and one can only hope that the defending champions do defend their title this time as well, and in Mumbai.
Chalo, let's hope that definitely happens and we all will be manifesting for that. Thanks a ton once again, Prajakta. Neha, आपको तो हम मिलेंगे Friday को. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. See you guys next Wednesday. Once again, we will be talking about WPL Week 2 and why and how Smriti Mandana ended up being the first ever centurion in the history of WPL. Until then, it's a goodbye from us. Have a great evening and enjoy the game that's happening right now.